Hello and welcome to the Oddschecker Betting Show. This is the first show of 2024 as we took a bit of a break through January, but we're delighted to be back to preview the racing this weekend at Cheltenham and Doncaster. And I'm delighted to be joined by Oddschecker's very own tipster, Andy Holding. Andy, how do we find you today?
Better than you by the sound of it.
Yeah, I've got a migraine coming on. So if I suddenly start slurring my words, listener, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I've got no excuses on that front. I'm clean bill of health, having suffered through the sort of Christmas into the New Year period. But hopefully my tipping and hunting prowess won't suffer on this podcast. It's good to be back and back with a bang, aren't we? With a fantastic weekend's action. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be pivotal, aren't they, George? Regards Cheltenham Festival sort of arrangements. So many good horses who've been quiet in the last couple of months are going to roll the dice and see where we're at prior to the big meeting in another month or two's time. And then the following week, of course, we get the Dublin Racing Festival, which tells us pretty much all we need to know about all the good horses over in Ireland, particularly the novices.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting how it feels like last time we spoke back in December, it was still a while away until the festival, but now suddenly 25th of January, it's only 6 weeks or so until we're there. We're hitting the business time, I guess, in terms of the festival itself. How's 2024 started for you in terms of the racing?
Yeah, touch wood, pretty good. I had a reasonably good December. The whole year was not very good, I must admit. I still made a profit, but I was down on previous year, so I'm not shouting anything by the rooftops by any stretch of the imagination. But I just feel as though December, January have been a little bit more meaningful in regards profitability and good results as well, and logical results. I don't think there's been too many banana skins, and I think I've got a rough idea where we stand with all the novices now. Just need to sort of pigeonhole them into the right categories depending on, like I say, these final trials. It's very tempting to back some of them before they run either this week or next week, but I think history dictates that I think you're probably better off seeing the results, doing the analysis, letting the dust settle, and then taking the prices afterwards, because I think a lot of these are going to be fairly difficult to predict.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the racing. We're going to go through the card at Cheltenham, and then we'll skip over to the 3 Grade 2s at Doncaster as well. But we're going to kick off with the opener, which is the Triumph Trial over the extended 2 miles, the 12:05. Before we do so, though, just going to point in the direction of Oddschecker and the Oddschecker app, where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and the best tipsters in the game straight to the app, including Andy himself every day of racing. But a quality opener here at Cheltenham. We've got Burdett Road is the 10-11 favourite ahead of Sagino at 13-8. And Unbeaten Record will go. Milantino is 7-1. Accelero 12-1. La Fauve is 40-1. Ellerton 66-1. And Cosmic Soul 100-1. Burdett Road's performances so far getting the nod here for favouritism ahead of Sagino. How does that stack up with your numbers, Andy?
Yeah, Burdett Road's run 2 reasonably good numbers, particularly his run last time out here at Cheltenham when he came from a long way back to win. It has to be said quite impressively. Impressed on many fronts that day. The fact that he quickened up so well in the latter stages from where he was at halfway, but more importantly, how he recovered from a series of poor jumping errors. His technique was put under scrutiny, and he didn't really come to scratch. I think a lesser horse would have really struggled to quicken the way he did. It should have blunted his finishing kick, but it didn't. So I think if they can work on that department, and I think a lot of that will come with more practice and, more importantly, on better ground. I think that could be the key to him. They can jump better on better ground, spring ground. So he's clearly a very, very talented horse. He's worked himself or shortened up quite markedly in the market. I think last time we spoke, he's around about 6-7-1 without really doing anything. And yet there seems to be more and more competition coming in from all angles. So I can't quite understand why he's so short. I mean, he takes on Sagino, who's equally impressive, if not more impressive, at Kempton on his debut. Then you've got the likes of Stormheart, Bunting, Carguess, Salva, Nürburgring, a horse I really like, Carla Conti. I think the Triumph Hurdle is about a stronger division of juveniles we've seen for a long time. I don't think they're all spectacularly brilliant, but I do think we've got a lot of good talent in there, and we're going to get a much, much more stronger and competitive try and hurdle field than we have done in the last 3 or 4 years, when we perhaps had 2 or 3 with a chance. Like last year, Lossiemouth, Blood Destiny the year before. To all intents and purposes, like the likes of Goshen have just sort of dominated that division. So I think we're going to learn more over the weekend how good Burnett Road is and how good he is in comparison to the one with the most potential, which is definitely Sergino. You remember going back to the start of the season when we did a podcast, George, regarding horses to follow for the season. I put up Salvatore Mundi, who hasn't run yet, but he's due to run in the Dublin Racing Festival next week and make his debut there. But he got beat by Sergino in that Auteuil listed hurdle back in, I think it was April, June, May time. And he was really impressive that day. He's very impressive at Kempton. Looked very green, still learning on the job, but he powered clear in the latter stages. The second has won since. The third runs today at, I think it's Wetherby in the first. So we'll get more idea how good that form is. And I think this will be a real test for Burnett Road, because I do think Sergino has got probably more physical scope than him. Whether he's quicker, I don't know. But I think a year or two down the line, Sergino will be a better horse than Burnett Road, who's very much a here and now juvenile. So
how do you play this at the prices as they stand?
Well, am I looking at the right price here? Around about 9 to 4 for Sergino. Would that be correct?
No, 13 to 8 now. That's pre-final decks.
13 to 8. Yeah, it looks a match though, doesn't it? I can't see any others getting into it. So I'd probably go with Sergino and take him to cause a little bit of a shock, I suppose.
Sergino 13 to 8. These are early prices, I've got to say. We're recording this just after midday on Thursday. So final deck's just out, only a couple of firms out. So they may be bigger. But if you check the oddschecker app or the site, you'll find out there where the best price is. On to the 12.40 now. The novice handicap Chase over 2.5 miles and Blow Your Wad and Ginny's Destiny, the 4-1 joint favourites. Theatre Man 11 to 2. A Perfecto 6 to 1. Tighten Our Belts 13 to 2. Persian Time 8 to 1. Happy and Fine 10 to 1. 14 to 1. Unexpected Party 20 to 1 bar those. Andy.
I think this is going to be one of the most informative races on the card. It often is, because if you go back and look at the Roll of Honour here, George, I would say at least 3, if not maybe more, have won this and then gone on to win at the Cheltenham Festival. Mr. Whitaker, who won it back in 2018, he went on to win the old 2.5 mile handicap for Mick Shannon back in the day. Simply the Bets won it 3 years ago for Harry Whittington, and he went on to win the plate. Imperial Alcazar, I think he ran in a handicap and got beat, but he ran really well. I think he might have got beat by the thing of Evan Williams's that was about a 12-year-old or something like that, always used to run Cheltenham really well. I think it's Cool Cody. Stage Star won it last year, and he went on to win the Turners. So even though it's a handicap, it's going to, like I say, I think it's going to be incredibly informative. Whether it throws up a graded winner at Cheltenham, I don't know, but I think it'll definitely produce horses that will end up running in festival races of some description. Obviously, a lot of people will be looking at Ginny's Destiny, having beaten Dan Skelton's Grey Dawning in a good graded race here last time out. There was no fluke about that run. He jumped, he travelled. Probably you could have argued that Grey Dawning might have won without that bad mistake at the second last, but I think he probably won on merit on the day. And of course, he's a similar type to Stage Star. Obviously, likes the course and distance, jumps well, goes off in front. He's bound to give a good account. But whether we could shake off the likes of Blow Your Wad or Theatre Man would be questionable. I do think Blow Your Wad is also a horse to keep on the right side of. He comes from yard in good form at the moment, Tom Lacey. And that race that he won at Kempton over the Christmas period was highlighted by its very strong speed figure compared to LS Francais and Hoyk. I did the final circuit sectionals, and Blow Your Wad actually ran quicker than the French horse and Hewick as well, 2 Grade 1 winners. So he was obviously operating at a fair level that day, Blow Your Wad. I mean, he hasn't been missed by the bookies in at 4-1. I thought I might, be able to get a slightly bit bigger price. But I think he and S Perfecto have finished third are the 2 out of that race that I think might give Ginny's Destiny the most to think about.
So if other prices, who would be Judy's Destiny and Blow Your Wad both 4-1. How do you play it at this time?
Yeah, I'd probably stick that Kempton race. I'd probably split my stakes with Blow Your Wad and El Perfecto. And like I say, favourable mention to Theatre Man as well. I've always had him down as a big handicap winner. So I think this is a really tough race, George. It's not one to get overboard on, but because there's so many with the chance. But out of the three I like, I whittle it down to Blow Your Wad and El Perfecto out of that Kempton race. I think that's the strongest form line.
4-1 and 6-1. On to the 115 now. Another handicap chase over 2.5 miles. Il Ridotto is the 4-1 favourite. Excello 6-1. Victorino 13-2. Hitman 15-2. Jetoile 11-1. Grandeur Dame is 11-1. Garlaw and Frere Dam and Easy as That and Bill Baxter all 12-1 as well. 25-1 bar those 13 runners as it stands. Andy, how do you see this?
Well, Il Ridotto won it last year, and I think he probably deserves to win it again based on what happened to him here last time out. I mean, he just got nutted by his old rival, didn't he, Fugitive? But it was a strong race. They pulled well clear of the rest. Time was good. And you can pretty much set your clock by Il Ridotto. You just know what you're going to get with him. A lot of people praise the ride that Bryony Frost gave him that day, which I agree to a certain extent, in the fact that he got him out in front and played to his strengths, but he made one or two little niggly errors here, there and everywhere, which is unlike him. And Bryony, I think, sometimes is just a little bit at cross purposes with a horse. So I actually don't think he jumped as well as he probably could do. And those little errors here, there and everywhere, I think ultimately cost him the race. So with Harry Cobden on board, hopefully Il Ridotto will jump a clear round and see all these off. Excello is very much one that you don't know how far he could go. I was really impressed with him at Ascot last time out, but he's never run around Cheltenham, so again, you weigh that up. That has to be a little bit of a worry. Victorino comes here instead of going to the Great Yorkshire Chase. So connections clearly think he's got enough speed to win over 2.5. But again, he's never run around Cheltenham. So when you're looking at the sort of like body of work that the main 2 or 3 have got in the market, the fact that Il Ridotto has got such an unbelievable record here around Prestbury, I think that should tip the balance in his favour. So come Saturday, hopefully these odds will extend a bit. There'll be money for other horses, and Il Ridotto will be more 5-1 rather than 4-1 at the moment. And we can get perhaps an each way bet on him 4 or 5 places, because bookmakers will be really clamouring to get your business on Saturday. So
yeah,
we'll wait till Saturday and hope that Il Ridotto drifts out, which I think he probably will. And that's the time to attack him.
Yeah, 4-1, 4 places with Hills is the best you're going to get now. But as Andy says, the advice to hold fire until later on. 150 next up is the Cotswold Chase, where Stay Away Faye and Royal Pagaille are the 130 joint favourites. The real whacker, obviously Cheltenham form, is 9-2. That's All Right Gino 6-1. Ahoy Senor 13-2, and Capodanno 8-1. So a decent, trappy little field, but a decent quality. Plenty of case. Well, easy to make a case, I guess, for all 6. Who do you see at this stage as being the value?
Well, it's a bit of a poison chalice, this race, of whatever wins it, George. And I don't think many win this and then go on to win the Gold Cup. In fact, I can't remember the last 10 years anything that did. There might have horses that ran well in it. I mean, the Giant Bolstead back in the day. And, you sort of Native Rivers and Santinis of this world, that have often been on the fringes, but they've never won it. And it's always a difficult race to assess, because we often get the sort of grade 3, grade 2 horse running it. The genuine sort of Gold Cup protagonists tend not to come here. So I think it's very much up for grabs. You could, like I say, you can make a case for all 6, but I'll probably go with That's All Right Gino, who has yet to prove himself at this level. But I was really impressed with his victory in the Ladbroke? I think it might have changed. I think it might be the Coral Gold Cup rather than the Ladbroke Gold Cup, formerly known as the Hennessy, let's say, for those of a certain vintage. But his victory over Marla Mission, who is a genuine graded horse, I think was a sign that this horse has really arrived. And it's taken ages for Nick Connections to work out what trip he actually needs. But those of us that have been following him for the last 18 months we've been frustrated with some of the performances he's put up over 2.5 when he constantly keeps getting outpaced and then running on again. But like I say, he was really good at Newbury when stamina kicked in. The further he went, the better he looked. They're thinking about the Grand National for him, or maybe the Gold Cup. If he does go on to win this, I think they're going to find out which race to kind of run him in, depending on how he gets on. But the form of that race at Newbury's worked out really well. Jacob Up Harry, who was 6, won the other day, and horses like Complete Unknown all the way down the line. Even horses that were pulled up have gone on to run well subsequently. So I think it was a good renewal of the old Hennessy this year. And, he's won at the track as well. So with 1 or 2 horses not quite fitting all the criteria here, like Raw Pagayi, is he a Cheltenham horse? Is Stowaway Faye going to be experienced enough? Does the Real Wacker Stay 3 mile 2? Does a Hoy Senior have the sort of mettle for winning a race like this again? His fencing technique has definitely come under scrutiny in recent years. And I think That's All Right Gino might have the one with the fewest convictions. And at the prices, he strikes me as probably being the value bet.
That's All Right Gino, 6-1 with Sky Bet, Paddy Power, Betfair Sportsbook, and Bet Victor and Ladbrokes as well. 6-1 there for That's All Right Gino. On to the Clarence House, the rerouted Clarence House in the 225. Certainly the big race on the card, but maybe not the best way punting perspective. Jonbon is the 4-11 favourite ahead of Editeur de Gite at 15-2. Fugitive, Elixir de Nuts, and Nubenegra all 16-1, making up the 5 runner fields. Can you make a case here against Jonbon, Andy?
I can't, but you know me, George. I'm going to make a case out for a bet in the race without Jonbon in it. I mean, it's a shame that El Fabiola doesn't come here, having looked as though he's going to take him on at Ascot. But race goes will be obviously served up that treat hopefully at the festival. So we get the sort of like the mouth-watering prospect of that bubble not bursting until March. So that's quite exciting on that front. But yeah, I'd expect Jonbon to win and win comfortably. He's just a thorough professional and he absolutely adores Cheltenham. I can't see him getting beat here. But I do think Fugitive's got a good chance of chasing him home on the basis that he'll probably be ridden to perhaps pick up the pieces. One would imagine that Editeur de Gite will go off in front. Jonbon will be breathing down that horse's neck. And then you'll have like the other 3 kind of in behind, waiting to pounce should Editeur de Gite's engine cut out when challenged by Jonbon. So given that Fugitive stays really well, and I think this new course will play more into his strengths than the old course. Because he does stay 2.5 miles really well. His record here at Cheltenham is absolutely incredible. I'm not saying that Nubenegra, Elixir de Nuts and Editeur de Gite's got a poor record at Cheltenham. I'm not basing everything around that. But I still think he's improving, Fugitive. And hopefully El Redoto early on in the card will boost that form of that handicap last time out. So I don't think he can beat Jonbon, far from it. But without the favourite market, Fugitive might prove to be the one to be with.
Fugitive 16-1. You can back each way a quarter of the 2. No, without market yet, but as soon as it is out, it will be on the oddschecker app and on site. So do look out for that. The 3 o'clock at Cheltenham on Saturday. We've got what's formerly the International Hurdle, now the Unibet Hurdle, and Lossiemouth is the 10-11 favourite ahead of Love Envoy at 5-2. Rubold is 5-1. Then First Street 25-1 and Guard Your Dreams 33-1. Another one, Andy, where it may not be the biggest field, but in terms of quality and in terms of the quality in particular of the favourite, no quality lost at all.
No, it's a race that has been kind of like presented a little bit of a sprinkle of stardust on it with Lossiemouth being in there. Wasn't sure which one Willie Mullins was going to run in this race. He had Gala Masson and a couple of other entries, but he decided to go with the mare. And she's the one that we don't really know enough about yet. And that's not to say that she hasn't got a really good body of work behind her based on her Triumph Hurdle sort of exploits in juvenile company, because she hasn't run yet and she hasn't run in open company yet. But she could really be anything, really, to be honest. I think we only scratched the surface of her last year. I think she's improving, and She was just basically beating what was put in front of her. So we'll get a real good indication with the likes of Love Envoy and Rubo in there of how good she is or how good she could be. I mean, she might end up being similar to the horse of Willie Mullins in these colours that finished third in last year's champion hurdle. The horse that was favourite for the Melbourne Cup. Is it Vauban?
Vauban, yeah.
Kind of like a genuine good Grade 1 winner as a juvenile, but not quite good enough for the proper, the likes of Statement and Constitution Hill. And she might end up going down the mares only route come the festival itself, up over 2.5 miles. So I think Willie's very much, putting a line in his tanks in front of sort of Presbury Park here and firing a few flares off here, there, and everywhere over the weekend. I'm really looking forward to seeing what we're going to get with her. I think she'll probably win because I think this race will be set up nicely for her. Robo will go off in front. Love Envoy likes the race handy. And I think the fact that Willie's preparing to roll the dice with her here this weekend and not sort of play it easy and keep her on home soil, I think he feels as though he's got her pretty much where he wants her. So I do expect Lossiemouth to win that 3 o'clock.
Lossiemouth 10 to 11 best price at the moment with William Hill as short as 4 to 6 in places as well, which might be representative of where Lossiemouth is headed in this market. On to the Cleve hurdle now, the 3:35, where Paisley Park continues to impress, rolling back the years. 130 Paisley Park, that's best price with Coral. Dashel Drasher is 4 to 1. Noble Yates 9 to 2. Champ 13 to 2. Strong Leader 10 to 1. Botox has 10 to 1. And Flight Deck 25 to 1. Really interesting this. Andy, how do you see it?
I never thought I'd usher these words again, George, but I actually do think that Paisley Park is probably one of the strongest bets of the whole weekend here in this race. Wow. I can't get my head around how he's under the 30 here, because unless he does something like he did here 2 years ago, if you recall, when he almost refused to race. And I remember at the time thinking, I'll still actually buy my mum. I remember it distinctly when he dug his toes and thought, oh, that's Paisley Park finished. He's lost the love of the game, and he was 20 lengths out the back door and just almost looking as though he was just running around as a lap of honour, really. And then all of a sudden you think halfway, he's back in the race, and my goodness me, he went on to win. It was quite one of the most extraordinary performances I think I've ever seen in a race course. I've left dumbfounded. I thought it's the last time I write off Paisley Park again. And here we are 2 years later. He's a ripe old age of 12, and he's still going as strong as ever. I think he's in the form of his life as well. I don't think he's any worse than what he was when he won the Stays Hurdle 4 years ago, whatever it was. He's holding his form spectacularly well. He should have beaten Dashel Drasher first time out. I just think he was a bit rusty the way the race panned out. He got going far too late, but I mean, another 2 strides he would have beaten Dashel Drasher. He beat his old rival pointless in the long walk. I think he bumped into a horse I think is definitely going to shake a few feathers in the Stays Hurdle itself in the long walk, in the shape of Crambo. I think Crambo is very much a young buck coming through that he's entitled to be where he is in the Stays Hurdle. Now we've lost a French horse as well, Thelmy. The sort of Stays Hurdle is up for grabs again now with perhaps with 1 or 2 of these old timers. But I think he'll beat Champ again. I think he'll beat Botox House. I think he'll beat Dashel Drasher. He's already beaten him in the long walk. And then you chuck in the likes of Flight Deck. He beat him at Newbury. Noble Yates. I mean, can he win a Cleve hurdle? I mean, he's 9 now. He's been chasing, and I don't know. I think this is a bit of an afterthought, really, of kind of trying to get his career back on track. Strong lead. I don't think he'll stay the trip. So when you actually boil it down and whittle it down, you think, well, if Paisley Park jumps off on terms and he's in a going mood, which to all intents and purposes what we've seen so far this season, he hasn't looked like chucking in the towel, then this new course really plays into his strength. I just think he'll outstay everything from 2 out. So yeah, I think 130 actually for once is a really, really good bet for Paisley Park here.
Strong one there from Andy. 130. That is with Coral. Short as 11 to 4 elsewhere, but that 130 standout best price there with Coral. Paisley Park in the penultimate race on the card. Finally, we've got the novice hurdle, where Gidley Park is the 4 to 6 favourite ahead of Johnny Who at 9 to 2. Antrim Coast 8-1, Lord of Thunder 12-1, Isaac de Zobo also 12-1, 14-1 bar those. Gidley Park, all the rage here, Andy, 4-6 in a novice hurdle event suggests a bit of a monster. Do your times agree?
His best time was the performance he put up at Exeter when he won early on in the season. He beat a horse called Range quite comfortably. And then he went to Newbury the other day and he was all the rage again. I think I put him up in my column, if I remember rightly. It's been a while ago and there's been loads of tips in, so I apologise if that wasn't the case. But I did actually back him that day off the back of that time figure at Exeter. And he was really impressive, wasn't he, the other day when he won at Newbury. He kicked a few out of the ground. But because he's such a big horse, I don't think he's going to meet every hurdle in his stride. He's not one of those horses that can get in tight and be very nimble. He kind of he's got his own way of getting over the hurdles. But when he does meet one on the stride that he's that he meets one at, he's really, really good. He beat a very well backed horse from Paul Nichols who's called Fireflyer. East India Express as well, back in fourth, had won well at Kempton the time before. Pick Rock, the fifth horse, he was beaten out of sight. He's gone on to win, I think, next time out at Catterick. So it's pretty decent form. Whether he's quite good enough to beat the really good Irish horses come the festival, like you're reading Tommy Wrongs or Ballyburn, for instance, the genuine Grade 1 Irish horses at the very top level, only time will tell. But Harry Fry went very close to winning the Ballymore with a horse called Neon Moon about 4 or 5 years ago, and he got beat by Ben Pauling's horse. I think he was a bit unlucky. I think he should have won that day. I think this is the nearest that Harry's got to that horse since then. I'll predict this horse, he's going to be a Gold Cup horse in about 2 years' time, because he's going to go chasing whatever happens next year, for my money. And he's definitely going to be a stayer. So he's going to be in like an RSA Brown advisory horse next season. And then the year after, I think he'll be a Gold Cup horse because he's only 6 now. So he's got the future in front of him. And I think we're going to see something pretty special Saturday, because I do think this is one of the best horses running on the card. So I see him tightening up quite considerably for the Ballymore come Saturday. So my advice would be not necessarily pile into him at 4 to 5, but to take the 10-1, which is currently available for the Ballymore, because I think his odds are short. Like I say, I think he'd probably be half those odds come Saturday. Because I just don't think any of these horses here on Saturday are as good as what he is.
Gidley Park, 10-1 best price with Coral and Ladbrokes for the Ballymore, and currently best price 4 to 6 with Paddy Power for this race come Saturday afternoon. Strong positive words there for Andy about Gidley Park's chances, not just on Saturday but also in future.
He's a gorgeous horse. You look at it when you see him. For those that haven't seen him yet, they're going racing. I think he's one of the stars on show. He really is a proper specimen.
Exciting stuff. Looking forward to seeing him again on Saturday afternoon. 3 races. We're going to do the 3 Grade 2s at Doncaster. And Andy, I'll ask if there's any others to keep an eye on. But first up is the 130, which is the Supreme Trial. Jericho de Raponnet is 2-1, lump sum 13-2, Fiercely Proud 13-2, 16-1 the Kaluki Kid, and El Elefant is 25-1. Again, another horse of Nicky Henderson's here in the favourite, who is one of the talking horses of the jump season so far. How does that reflect in the numbers?
Yeah, he's just one of those ones that hasn't done a time yet. He's just beaten what's been put in front of him. He's beaten nothing. The horses that finished behind him are just 110, 128, 20 rated horses at best. He's done it with a huge degree of swagger. He's got loads of tons of size and scope about him. I mean, this will give us a better indication of what he's about, because he's up against Fiercely Proud and Lump Sum, who looks fairly impressive in winning both of their 2 hurdle starts. They're at a really good level, both of those two. The connections of both of those 2 sets of horses really like them as well. I know Ben Pauling thinks Fiercely Proud is one of his best novices, and he's got the likes of Tell Your Name, Handstands, and the horse that won at Doncaster the other day, made all the running. He's got about 4 or 5 Benas this year that stand out, and Fiercely Proud is very much one of them. I would probably back Fiercely Proud without the favourite here. because I just don't know how good Jericho de Repene is. He's down on our time figures that we've got, but he could easily run to a big number in a better race, because I think this will really tell us what he's about. But Fisty Proud's run a couple of really smart times, and he's looked really good. And I think he'll probably get the better of the other three. So again, that market isn't open, but that would be my advice for that race. Is to back Fisty Proud without the favourite. So I think you'll get sort of 6-4 him without, whereas Jericho de Repene will be something like 2-1.
Fiercely Proud, yeah, 13-2, a quarter of the two who want to back Fiercely Proud each way. But as Andy says, keep an eye out for the without market, which will come out in the coming hours, I would have thought. The 205 is the Mares Hurdle, where Ashro Diamond is the 13-8 favourite ahead of Gala Marceau at 2-1, Under Control 4-1, 12-1 Say Goodbye, 25-1 Stainsby Girl, and Riccarella is 250-1. Three at the top end here. It looks like a battle between those three. Who do you think is best set to come out on top?
Yeah, I think this is a bit of a precursor to what we might see at the Cheltenham Festival. We've got Lossiemouth over at Cheltenham, running over 2.5 miles. And we've got these two here who are genuine 2.5 milers, Gala Marceau and Ashro Diamond, running over 2. So they're not running over their ideal distance. But which one of the two has got the most pace? I'll probably go with Ashro Diamond, and the fact that she's had a run as well this season. She looked as though she needed it in the race that was won by Tiupu, the Hatton's Grace, but I certainly don't think there was any disgrace in that. Whereas Gala Marceau hasn't run since winning at Punchestown. So again, it's more of a fact-finding mission and a learn about where we stand with a lot of the Willie Mullins horses who are coming over this weekend. I think it's great that he is running them, and he doesn't shoot the issue if he wants to run them against each other. He'll definitely be doing that next weekend in the Dublin Racing Festival, so he's got to be commended with that. But on this occasion, I just think Ashro Diamond ran this galloping track with a run under her belt might just get the better of the battle. But I think we're going to see kind of like a better indication of their capabilities when they meet over 2.5 at Cheltenham in March.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And finally, in the 240, we've got the River Don Novice Hurdle over 3 miles. Welcome to Cartier is the 3-1 favourite. Destroy the Evidence 4-1. Kerry Hill 8-1. I Love My Bale 8-1. 17-2 Esprit to Potter 9-1 Range 12-1 Bar.
Yeah, it's a race that Paul Nicholls has won before. He's got Welcome to Cartres, who's very much the unknown quantity. And what he's done so far on the racetrack, he'd have to find quite a bit to beat some of these who I think have got better form. So I'll go with the horses that have got the better form. I think Destroy the Evidence holds the key to this race, really, with that second beyond Shanna Bob at Cheltenham last time out. It was a genuinely good race. They went a good sound gallop. Nicky Henderson's horse just outstayed him, but he's a very, very brave and tenacious horse, Destroy the Evidence. He didn't give up that day, even though he's off the bridle from a long way out. He's definitely complemented by the way that David Brass rides him and the way that David likes to ride. No holds barred kind of attitude, and the horse keeps responding. I think this galloping track will really suit him. Kerry Hill was behind in that day. I think we haven't quite seen the best of Kerry Hill. I think maybe this flatter track might play into his strengths a little bit more than Cheltenham, but to be fair, he has got a little bit to find with Destroy the Evidence, who now comes from a yard who are finally coming out of that little bit of a slumber that they had Christmas stroke into the new year. They've had a couple of winners in recent days, so a little bit more confidence behind the Kim Bailey stable now. So yeah, Destroy the Evidence, a very consistent horse. If you can get somewhere in and around an each way price for him on Saturday, I don't think you go too far wrong with him.
4-1, Destroy the Evidence, Bet Victor and Coral, BetMGM and a couple of other firms, 4-1 there. Anything else on the cards to count for Doncaster, Andy?
Yeah, I think Love Tree will run well in the first. She got bogged down on heavy ground last time out of Ludlow. Prior to that, she was really silky smooth around that track on better ground. I think because she is such a big, strong mare, that heavy ground is no good to her. So it'll be interesting to see how they price that race up. I'm sure we'll do the Irish Raid of Gordon Elliott, who won Aintree, we favourite. But you might get a nice each way price about Love Tree. She could be the surprise package. Could be a good day for connections, of course, with Burdett Road in the same colours at Cheltenham. And it'd be remiss of me not to at least put up a couple of horses to keep an eye on in the Great Yorkshire Chase, whether I put them up on my column or not depends on the prices. But I quite like the form of forward plan and tequila, 2 shots of tequila here from a race 42 days ago. Forward plan came out on top that day. But if you recall, they took the 4 fences out in the home straight because of low sun. I don't think it really helped 2 shots of tequila, who is a very good jumper and a strong traveller. And because those got away from him at the front end of the front end of the race, he wasn't able to get back into it. But he was very heavily backed 2 shots of tequila. He went off favourite that day, having been around about 5-6 to 1 in the betting. So it's clear that Rebecca Menzies' horse likes Doncaster. He likes good ground. There isn't too much rain predicted for the weekend. And I think if you can get sort of 16 to 1 for him on Saturday, again with 4 or 5 places, maybe more, he'll give you a good spin, 2 shots of tequila. So he'd be the one at this stage I'll be looking at.
2 shots of tequila, 16 to 1. That's best price with Hills, Bet Victor, Coral, and a couple of others as well. 2 firms, Sky Bet and Hills, going 6 places at the moment for the Great Yorkshire Handicap Chase. So make sure you check that out. That brings our Saturday preview to a close. Great to be back with you, Andy. Thank you very much as ever for sharing your tips and insight. We'll be back, I think, every week now until the Cheltenham Festival. Yeah. So keep your eyes peeled on the Oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find Oddschecker betting shows there, and also Racing Weekly every week as well, with all the news after the weekend's racing. Do check that out. And do download the Oddschecker app, where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and plenty more up on there. The perfect companion to your weekend's racing. Enjoy it. Going to be one of the best Saturdays I think we've had this season so far. Should be plenty of action going on. Hopefully a couple of winners put up there by Andy. And please do ensure that you are gambling responsibly.